Hello, cool, tough, and attractive listener. Welcome to the Geek Press Podcast. I'm Noah, and today co-host Lewis and I talk about our brief hiatus, catch up a little bit, and then talk about one of the hottest films this summer, Across the Spider-Verse. If you enjoy what you're listening to, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help us get that exposure, the same thing that you die of in the desert. See you in a sec. Hey, Editor Noah here, just letting you know that the discussion about Spider-Verse doesn't start until 28 minutes, 28 seconds in. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, theys and thems. My name's Luis Gutierrez, and welcome to episode 53 of the Geek Press Podcast. Before we get further into this episode, I want to apologize for having a little bit of a hiatus. I'm busy. Noah's busy, but we like doing this. Yeah, I just wanted to get out of there and, get in front of that before we start the episode, but we apologize. But, without further ado.
We're busy.
Yes, we are busy.
We get busy. We have lives. Not everything I do is for you, podcast listeners.
And Chris Evans was in the studio with us, but as soon as Noah started screaming, he scared him away.
You know what? I find that to be a thing that I do, that people just run away whenever I start screaming, which is crazy.
Yeah, like he was right here. Like we cleared out his schedule and everything. He was going to talk about his cameo in Secret Wars. Like we had exclusives.
And it's like crazy because like when people scream on movie and television, they're acting. But when I do it in the middle of a Ralph, suddenly I'm a fucking domestic terrorist or something. I don't know.
So, no, it's been 2 weeks. Obviously, we've talked off the air, but the people of the internet don't know what you've been doing for 2 weeks. Catch us up on your life.
Oh my gosh, I'm going first. Well, hello. I hope you're well. I'm doing okay. We're doing all right. I have been just working on myself and some personal projects. I pushed out a video about the recent death of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel in the comics. It's been a long time since I've made content on YouTube.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, go for it.
I have like maybe like a month and a half worth of comics built up that I need to read. But I've noticed this clicked in my head the other day. I feel like they're making a really big deal out of this. Like they made like the death of Captain Marvel back in the day. And like some of the covers even more or less resemble that. Is that intentional?
Yes. Although I've noticed some fans of the character saying how that death is it's interesting because people have talked about how that is Catholic symbolic
Okay.
of sort of like a Catholic, and it's weird that she's like a Muslim character.
Okay.
It's like people are like, "Why are you doing that?" But yeah, I pushed out a video. If you guys want to watch it, it's called "The Hollow Death of Miss Marvel." It's got 116 views, which I'm very happy about.
Congratulations.
It got me 2 subscribers, so I was like, "Oh my god!"
Congratulations.
And it's been a long time. Thank you. It's been a long time since I put out a video on YouTube, so I'm happy.
Noah doesn't put out a lot either.
I don't. I'm very stingy. I'm always closing my legs like a door in the wind. But yeah, it just sucks. But I'm very excited because the video is like 8 minutes. People seem to I'm glad people like it. It's very much I make it clear in the beginning that it's not the fact that she's dead is the upsetting part because it's comics. They die and come back all the time. What's upsetting people is how it happened.
Do you want to tell people how it happened? Because I saw like panels of it, but to people who don't read comics, like Kevin's, how would they?
The Kevins,
Yeah,
the name of our fans.
Mhm.
I'll say if you guys want to find out, it's 8 minutes. Hollow Death of Miss Marvel. Plug in it. Go to YouTube.
All right, for sure.
But the quick
We'll link it in the description.
Yeah, I'll link it in the description if I remember. The quick description is that she's been a supporting character with less than like 16 appearances in the current Spider-Man comic. Like she's like not even a supporting character. She's just been in the background. They fight a bad guy who tries to kill MJ, but he gets tricked by Miss Marvel and she transforms into MJ, and she dies instead. And apparently, because the bad guy made like a deal with a god, like he fucks up the deal and the bad guy dies. So it's like, oh look, she didn't die for nothing. Her death defeated the bad guy. So it's just lame. 'cause, like, it doesn't build up to it. She wasn't a major part of the book. None of her friends were there. Like, it was just kind of a lame death.
Uh-huh.
Like, I go more into detail in the video, but it's just kinda like, eh, like, there was no point. It was just kinda whack. Like, if you're gonna kill off a character, at least kill them off in, like, an interesting way that, like, matters to them.
Uh-huh. Or like progresses like
Mhm.
the story like forward in one way or
E
another.
exactly, and this isn't even her Spider-Man. Her Spider-Man is Miles. Like, that's her friend. Like, this is it's like if you died not for your best friend, but for your best friend's uncle.
Like your coworker.
Yeah, your coworker, not your friend. You died for your coworker. And let me tell you, all the people that were there, none of them knew her. Like, fucking Fantastic Four,
Yeah,
they
I
don't know
saw
this
I
girl.
saw a panel of the
Uh-huh.
thing and he's like, "Grr." You
It's like,
know? Oh god.
like like, a lot of people have been roasting the art and writing, and I'm not gonna do that because I don't wanna, like, hate people on a podcast. I'll hate them every day on Twitter, but I don't wanna hate them on a podcast. But yeah, put out the video. I'm happy people seem to like it. I might make another one talking about, the wasted potential of Superman's son because I feel like there's a lot of wasted stuff with him. That might be
You're
my
gonna go
next one,
after
but
Tom
yeah.
Taylor
Yeah, I'm just gonna roast his ass. I'll
along
just
with
be
like
like
every other comic fucking
I'll be
dweeb.
like, "Listen here, you Australian fuck with your chap hat. Get it together." And I just start beating him up.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you beat your ass in a fight if
You
it came down
might.
to it.
You might, but I'm brown and I'm gonna call it a hate crime. So that's what I've been busy with aside from normal life stuff.
Uh-huh.
I know that you have had a crazy 2 weeks. Why don't we jump a little bit into that? What have you been up to?
Yeah, okay. So, I don't know if I ever actually flat out said the game I was working on the podcast, and if I did, then too bad you're gonna hear it again. But I was working on Street Fighter 6, which was, if you guys are big into the gaming community, it's a big fighting game. As the name suggests, it's the sixth main installment in the series. And this one right here, they kind of said, "Hey, you guys like Street Fighter, you like fighting mechanics, but let's put some twist to it. Let's evolve the game a bit more." And they did that, and it's really fucking good. But the guide work I was doing just took so fucking long, and something kind of clicked in my head. I was like, I think I'm gonna step away from guides for a little bit, just because it pays well, but it just
Mhm.
involves too much of my time. You know,
I know
just
you've been getting really burnt out on doing guides too.
yeah, like for any young aspiring games journalist who's listening to this podcast, I will say this, okay? Guides are now this isn't my phrase. I'm taking this from a friend, Wesley LeBlanc, good friend of mine. Guides are the back door to the industry. Guides will get you in, and then from there you can spread
Hmm.
your wings. And that's exactly what I did. So, no hate on guide writers.
Yeah,
I
they're
come
like a good stepping
hmm
point, stepping off point.
yeah, but just, get your foot in the door and then start DMing people, messaging once you get a few guides under your belt, and people be like, "Oh yeah, look, he can pump out content right away," or she or
Yeah.
they can pump out like within like a day if needed, like lengthy stuff. So it's really
Mhm.
good. But at the same time, just, take care of yourself. Don't overwork. My problem was I said yes to every fucking project that came my way, which necessarily isn't a bad thing, but it also isn't a good thing at the same time, you know? So
Mhm.
yeah, that kind of happened, and I was like, I'm gonna kind of step away from guides just for a little bit because I like to write news stories. I like to do that. I like to flex that part of my brain. So I
Mhm.
was like, I'm a part of two different news teams. I can make the money I would have made there here if I just invest a lot more time here. And this week essentially proved that because I made a pretty good chunk of change this week, and I was like, damn, like okay, I just gotta keep doing this, and I'm good, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was like kind of like the first revelation I had, and then after that, let's see, I was really excited because I'm not really much of a fan of Diablo 4, which is really funny, but I've been working closely with the PR team
Mhm.
leading up to the game. Like I helped do a guide for it. Funny enough, I was just talking about guides. I helped do a guide for it, and I helped whenever the PR people contacted me, I was like, "Hey, let me pitch this to my editors, see what they're if they're interested in it."
Mhm.
Most of the time they said yeah, or if anything, somebody else had already beat me to the punchline. But
Yeah.
I worked a lot with the PR team. So, leading up to the launch, like a couple of days, like the early access launch for the people who like pre-ordered the game, they sent me an email saying, "Hey, Luis, we're gonna have a launch party here in Los Angeles. Would you want to go?" And I just assumed they know I live in the LA area, so
You're,
so
like, out in Wisconsin, and you're just like, "Oh, the how am I gonna get there?"
it's in the middle of the desert and butt fuck
And then
nowhere. But yeah, I just assume they know I live in the LA area. So
Mhm.
I was like, fuck yeah, I want to go. And they're like, oh, you can bring a plus one. Just when you get to the launch party, if you want, we recommend you Uber because we're gonna have valet parking, but it's very limited. And there's gonna be a guest of honor table for you guys to go in, blah blah blah. So it's like, okay. And they're like, oh, cosplay's welcome, or you can just go as you are. And I was kind of nervous because I didn't know how people dress to launch parties. I didn't.
Yeah, this is your first one, isn't it?
Yeah, because the last one I had tried to go to, and I think I mentioned this in the podcast before, but
Mhm.
I'm just gonna reiterate it just really quick. There was a launch party for Persona 3 and Persona 4 relaunching on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox X and S, and it was also open to the public, but you needed to wait into this long ass line. Elizabeth and I went. We never got into the launch party. We ended up waiting hours in line just for them to tell us it was full, and we ended up walking back to our car late at night. So we
Oh,
never,
that
yeah,
sucks.
we never got into the launch party. And some people were dressed in cosplay. Some people were dressed kind of regular. Some people were dressed kind of bad. So I couldn't really get a beat on what the dress code
Mhm.
was. So I was like, fuck it. I was kind of struggling a little bit. And I was kind of getting a lot of anxiety because I was like, oh man, let me just make like a quick little like devil outfit. So Elizabeth and I got like these white dress up shirts, threw some fake blood on it, got some devil horns. Boom, we're devils. There we go.
You know what? I thought that was, like, a good, like you're trying to remain professional, but you're adding a little bit of, like, personality to it.
That's exactly what I was kind of thinking, and that's exactly what Elizabeth was kind of thinking. And so when we
Mhm.
went, there were people like super cosplayed out, but more or less everyone was kind of just casual. So I
Mhm.
I like blended in. But what felt super cool was as soon as I walked in, I was fortunate enough to like still get valet parking so for free. So I got free valet parking, and then what I felt like such a baller because this I again, I'm still very new to the games industry, so I just assume a lot of launch parties are open to the public as well. You just either have to wait in line or buy a ticket. But for the public line, that shit was like stretching across. And Elizabeth and I were like, "Fuck!" But then I remembered, I was like, "Wait, they told me to go to a specific table to get in."
Mhm.
So, and I'm like, "Don't worry, babe, come with me."
"Come
And
with me, babe."
there's like this like VIP line, and like we cut the whole line and all that, and so it was pretty cool. We got a free drink. There was free drinks all night, but
Mhm.
by the time we had left the bar, the line was fucking stretching. So we got our one free drink, and that was it. Or else we would have spent the entire night getting free drinks.
Yeah, I wanna let the audience know that I was there in the other line, and I was like, "Louis, hey, I know you," and then he looked at me, and then he was like, "I don't know who that is," and then he
Yeah.
walked away, so that I was there too, just letting everyone know. This is me confronting you.
And what was super cool about that was they had photographers for Getty Images,
Mhm.
and Elizabeth and I are on Getty Images now, and that was like really really cool. And I think I posted a picture on my Instagram, and like it looks super like super cool.
Mhm.
And here's the best part of the story, and I told you guys this like the next day, but after we took our pictures from Getty Images, there was somebody working the red carpet, and they were like, "Hey, follow the line right here, and it'll lead you right into the party." And I was like, "Okay," but keep in mind we had already been at the party for a little bit. We just wanted to go take our
Yeah.
pictures. And so what happened was as soon as she said that, she kind of like gestures us to go right there, just to kind of keep everything fluid, so that way people
Mhm.
aren't crowding up. I see this guy. I see this guy just kind of chilling, smoking, right, and
Mhm.
he's just kind of just standing there. I'm like, oh, whatever. He's just, smoking a cigarette or whatever, not bugging anybody. And I reach my hand behind me so that way Elizabeth can grab my hand, and because it was a little bit of a crowd, but not too much. But just like I just reached so that way I know she's right there and she's following me.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he's standing here in the middle with like his like little group, and they're just chilling. And I'm like, hey, excuse me, coming through. And I walk through, and Elizabeth holds my hand. And as we're like right in front of the door, she's like, "Oh my god, that's Offset." And I'm like, "Who?" She's like, oh my god, that's Offset." And I'm like, "Who the fuck's Offset?" She's like, "Oh, he's like this giant rapper." And I'm like, "Offset." And I'm like, "Wait, who?" And she's like, and she's like, "I think that's like Cardi B's like baby daddy or something." She said something like that. And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Wait, isn't that dude kind of like a piece of shit?" And she was like, "Yeah, like he cheated on her like while she was pregnant," or she said something like that. She like
Yeah.
how this guy's a scumbag. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool." And she was like, "Yeah, apparently you pissed him off." And I was like,
Oh.
"What?" And I was like, "How did it piss him off?" She was like, "When you walked in front of him, he like looked at you and he like kind of like told his group, 'It's fine, just let him pass. Just let him pass.'" But like you could tell the way like you like cut in between them really pissed him off, and she was telling me, it seemed like he was even more upset because you didn't even know who he was.
Oh.
And so I was like, "Oh shit, okay, I just, that's nice to know that like, I pissed off a renowned like world rapper, didn't even know who the fuck he was." So that was really funny. And then this has been like a joke between Elizabeth and I. I often tell her, I'm like, "God, you're such a woman." And she's like, "What?" And then she gets a little angry. She's like, "Why do you say that?" I'm like, "'Cause all fucking celebrities, all like the celebrity drama." And then as soon as we left, she was like, "You're right. I do know a lot of celebrities, Luis." And I was like, "I fucking told you." So that was really funny. And
Mhm.
what had happened was after like at the end of the party, they had like cosplayers like a girl dressed up as like the big baddie of the game. And she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm gonna kill you all, blah blah blah, the world's doomed." And she has these fucking these wires on her, and she's like floating up, like just kind of like flying around, and like she looks all demon mystified. It looks really really cool, right?
Hot.
And yeah, right, really hot too. And so there's this guy saying, "You will not stop us. We will prevail." Just kind of giving some generic ass speech. And then she's like, "You're neither human nor demon. Who are you?" And he's like, and he takes off his hoodie. He's like, and I think his name's Zed or Ned. I forget his name. He
Zed.
Zed. Yeah, he takes off his hoodie and he's like, "I'm Zed." And it just starts fucking playing a whole concert for like an hour and a half. And then everyone in the room, including Elizabeth, like, "Oh my god, it's Zed." I'm like, "Who the fuck's this guy?" And, and
I
she
swear to God, Louis.
and she's like, he's like a because I don't, I mainly listen to rock music. I like to say I listen to a lot of music, but
I feel like you're like a pop punk
yeah,
rock musical type of
but
guy.
if you're gonna like label me, that's my label. And I'm like, "Who the fuck's this guy?" Everyone in the crowd is losing their shit. And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
this guy's cool." And she's like, "Yeah, he's like up there with like Dead Moss and like Daft Punk and them." I'm like, "Oh shit, so this guy's like a really big deal." And what was even more funny was that in the email in which they invited me, they specifically said he was gonna be there, but they said keep that on the hush hush. I completely fucking ignored that part because I didn't even know who he was.
You're just like, "Oh, Zed, someone invited their cousin. Nice. Alright."
Yeah, and people were losing their shit, like, "Oh my god." And what was even more funny was that there were like legitimate influencers there, Noah. Like I've never seen them like real influencers. Like the people like, "Oh my
Mhm.
god, the lighting," and then like they're just kind of like popping out like their chest or like revealing
Yeah,
some abs.
you saw James
I
Charles and
saw
Logan
those kind of
Paul.
people at the party, like legitimate, and like they were like kind of like duck facing and doing like the Vogue looks. And then there was
Like,
this
they're real.
Yeah, and then there was this girl that was because when Zed had popped out, we had just so happened to walk across the front stage, so we got stuck there at the perfect time. So we got like front
Uh-huh.
row. Like I was right. I was looking at I could have charged him if I wanted to. Those intrusive thoughts were coming in. And
Oh my god, Louis.
to be fair, Elizabeth was saying the same thing. She was like, "What's stopping us from going up there?" And I was like, "Nothing." and So what had happened was one of the influencers was like, "Man, I thought this party was gonna be lame because it's all about video games, but look, they got Zed here." And I'm like, "Man, go fuck yourself. What'd you expect? You're at a video game launch party."
Yeah, like, honest like, what? What are your expectations? Why you show up?
Yeah, because the whole thing was like video game. It was a like the church. They like reimagined it to fit the
Uh-huh.
aesthetic of the game. But yeah, that was like super cool, and like he ended up playing for like a cool hour and a half. And like I'm like, damn, like I got a free fucking concert. That this is dope, you know?
Free concert, baby,
Yeah.
alright.
I just found it funny though. Like I saw two famous people and I got a free concert. And I don't really know who either one of these guys are. Like he played a few songs. I'm like, oh yeah, I know this song.
Yeah, you're just like, "That was a big song in 2012, I remember that."
I felt like a dad because I saw Elizabeth like singing along and I was like, yeah, you know?
You were just like, "Oh, this kid's music, I remember
and
that."
and honestly too, this is specifically to Kevin Prime, if you're listening to this. How the fuck do you manage to dance the entire night? Because everyone like went ham, including myself, maybe like the first 20, 30 minutes.
Mhm.
After that, I've noticed that the environment kind of slowly dropped a little bit. And I'm like, man, I'm tired as fuck. And Elizabeth's like, my feet hurt. And I'm like, same here. And like everyone wasn't dancing as much. And I'm like, how the fuck do you guys do this like at raves and shit for like hours at a
Mhm.
time? So Kevin
"Oh,
Prime,
honey.
if you're listening, I need to know how the fuck you do that.
Oh, honey, it's drugs. It's all drugs. Everyone's on drugs." They didn't have that energy at the party you were at, it's 'cause no one was a lot of people weren't expecting it. Like, let me tell you, I'm pretty sure there were some people doing cocaine in the bathroom, and if they knew Zed was playing, there'd be more people doing cocaine in the bathroom.
You know, you're probably right. I did see stereotypical influencers, so there probably was coke in the restroom.
Oh, there has to. That's the only way they can function now.
So yeah, that was last week. And as for this week's actually been kind of like busy for me.
Mhm.
I
Work-wise?
Yeah, work wise. So I had I had emailed one of the editors at GameSpot. I was like, "Hey, do you guys need coverage for Anime Expo?" And
Mhm.
he was out of town for a little bit, and so he never got back to me. And then I finally got back. I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, did you get my email?" And he was like, "Oh shit, yeah, thanks for reminding me." Essentially told me, "Yeah, we want you there. Get your ass over there." And I'm like, "Awesome." So I reached out to Anime Expo, and I
Mhm.
kind of felt like a baller because I was like, "Hey, my name's Luis. I'm with GameSpot. Where's my, you know?" And they're like, "Hey, we want you. Come on in. We want you to apply as press. Like, get over here." So like, it felt really cool just to like to name drop a big like website like that and just be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, they want me here and this and that." You know, obviously I said it more professionally. I'm just saying it as jokes, but it felt really cool for that. And I'm going to Anime Expo as press now, and I'm really looking forward to that. And even like the PR people I've been in contact with, they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna try to get you in touch with other people so you could get like interviews and yada yada yada." And I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, give me," you know?
I think that's so cool because if there are any other I'm gonna tell everyone right now, if there are any inspiring writers or people that wanna get into this sort of business, what Lewis has done in the past, whereas go to these events, interview people, whether they be big or small, and push out that content regardless of how many views. Because he's done that, he's really shown his employers that he can execute content like that. He can interview, he can go to events like this. So I say anybody, even if you don't have a fucking press pass, if you still want to go and interview and make content, it's still worth it because look at
Yeah,
Lewis. He worked hard, he did a lot of interviews, and now he can show employers like, hey, I can do it. And now they're sending him to these big old things.
yeah, like
So that's like a shout out to you.
thank you, Noah, thank you. And to kind of like to expand a little bit on what Noah said too.
Mhm.
Even if you're just a YouTuber, a TikToker, whatever, you know, just go up to a comic book artist or even just like Artist Alley. It's like, "Hey, I'm making a video. Can I talk to you a little bit?" And they're always gonna say yeah. They're always
Yeah.
unless they're super busy.
Yeah. They're either gonna say yeah or like, oh, can I get back to you around
Mhm.
this time?
And then the only times you're gonna probably hear no is when you actually go to, like, the talent, and by that, I mean, like, the actors, the voice actors,
Mhm.
because they can be a little bit more, like, picky on who they say yes and no to.
Mhm.
But, like, even sometimes too, you'll get lucky, like, I know the guy who voices Gohan, I believe his name is Kyle LeBear.
Mhm.
he will say yes to like almost essentially any interview, and that's something I really like about him. And just go and talk to him and be like, there you go, you got an exclusive TikTok interview, you got an exclusive YouTube whatever that nobody else has because you asked him questions that were unique to that conversation you're having, you know? But yeah, so I got invited to that and I'm really looking forward to it. And also I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast, but I got invited. So today's Saturday, so tomorrow Sunday, as of recording this on June 11th, it would have already happened by the time this episode is published. But Xbox is having a showcase event, which is like their yearly thing where they're like, "Hey, look at us! This is why you should buy an Xbox. Here's all our games coming out." And as everyone knows, I have a PlayStation, I have an Xbox, but I love Microsoft. I'm a big Xbox gamer.
Yeah, you're an Xbox guy at heart.
Yeah, and I got invited to that Xbox showcase
Mhm.
that's going to be happening, and I am looking forward to that right there. So this is the first time I've been invited to an event like this.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was talking a lot. That was essentially my 2 weeks. Been a lot of emails exchanges, been a lot of, making arrangements and backyard deals and talking to the Yakuza. But yeah, that was my stuff. That was
Mhm.
Noah's stuff. But let's get into the meat of the episode now, Noah.
Yeah.
So it's been what, like a week? 2 weeks since Spider-Verse has come out?
It's been about a week as of the date of this recording.
Okay. So without, obviously this goes without saying, but we're gonna jump into spoilers. If you guys haven't,
So many spoilers.
yeah, if you guys haven't seen Spider Verse, the second one, go go do your homework. And Noah, what's their
Mm,
homework for the week?
honestly, if you haven't watched Spider-Verse, just unsubscribe. Just stop listening to us. I don't want you as a listener. I don't want leave, get out, leave. But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, you know what? I don't respect what Noah's doing, but I will support it. So yeah, get out of here.
Yeah. So my homework is to watch. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting. I thought it'd be funny if we just keep mentioning the past two episodes we've mentioned King of the Hill. So I want to mention King of the Hill again. King of the Hill shout out this week is when fucking it's when the old man first meets their neighbor and they're just like, we think he's from Vietnam. And then the old man, he went to Vietnam. He's like, no, he's from Laos, aren't you, Mr. Khan? And I'm just like, that's just I think that's worse. That's like worse than being racist and being like, oh, he's Vietnamese. The fact that he knew that he was from Laos is just like it's somehow worse. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, I just remember that the other day. Because I have a friend in the Philippines and it triggered that memory. And I was like, was it Laos? Like, where was it from? So it was just that.
I fucking love King of the Hill.
It's crazy. But yeah, that's the homework. But let's go into this discussion. Just off the bat, what's your impressions on the film overall?
Honestly, I liked how they gave Gwen a lot more
Mhm,
like focus. Like it was almost as much as her story as it was Miles' story.
mhm,
And that's something I really enjoyed because I was like, man, like the intro to the movie is strong. Like they come out swinging, and I was like, shit, like
mhm,
it was super good, you know. And I really like the entire aspect, which is like you you don't necessarily need to do this because it's what you have to do. Instead, you should like forge your own path. I like that a lot, but at the same time, the realist comes out in me. I'm like, ooh, the pros outweigh the cons in this situation, you know,
mhm.
like who's really the bad guy here, you know? And I like
Uh,
movies that make me question my morals because I'm like, yes, I
mhm,
see why they're doing that, but at the same time, I get why the quote unquote bad guys of the film are doing this too.
mhm,
And I love it when movies make me do that, you know? And this movie does so much. Like the art style is great and they do a lot of, like, interconnecting with all, like, the other Spider-Man franchises, and it's so fucking cool. So, yeah, that's
Mhm.
my quick cliff notes.
I think it is very much I first seeing it, I really felt like this was a love letter to the concept of Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
Just the idea of Spider-Man, I feel like this was like a love letter. One half of it, because the other half is coming eventually. But because we don't know, because they kept saying 2024, but then they took the release date for the second film off their Twitter bio.
Oh, they did?
So I'm like, they
'Cause
did.
I think it was
So
supposed
I'm
to come out
like,
in March, right?
yeah, it's supposed to come out 2024, March 29th. But they took it off their Twitter bio, so now I'm just like, I don't know. They might need more time. But, I loved it. It was such, like, a cool experience. I feel like this goes without saying, because I feel like we're gonna discuss a lot of topics at hand here. I just wanna, like, say, first off, this is I would regard this as a piece of art, the
Yeah.
animation,
It's up there with Puss
simply
in
be
Boots: The Last Wish.
Sure.
You've never seen it, have you?
The thing is, I haven't seen it, but I've heard a great many good things about it.
I'm gonna fight everyone who hasn't seen that movie.
I've heard you're gonna f well, you know what? You don't need an excuse to fight me. Yeah. But, yeah, it's I've heard nothing but great things, but Spider-Verse, like, the art style is so beautiful, the way they switch up as they visit the universes, the way things are animated, the coloring,
Fun fun
it's just
fact,
so beautiful. Mhm,
so you know how they had the Lego scene?
mhm.
You know that was done by a 14-year-old on spring
Yeah,
break? Yeah, that was
I
crazy as
saw
shit.
that.
Okay, but continue.
But, just to give some more background information, they had already decided they were gonna make Across the Spider-Verse before Into the Spider-Verse was released.
Yeah, that
So they
was
already had, like, the sequel in mind, which was
mhm.
really cool. So go
No, I was gonna just kinda reiterate what
Oh,
you just
okay.
said.
And it's just, while it's not it has, like, one of the largest animated film crew ever, with, like, over 1,000 people working on it,
It shows.
and it has, like, 240 different characters and Spider-Man, Spider-People, and it's just so interesting. And, fun fact, um, when they wrote this story, when they first pitched the sequel to Into, they realized it was too much for one film, so, they split them up into 2 halves, and they worked on them simultaneously.
No shit.
So
So they like
hopefully
Lord
they
of the
might
Rings
push
and
it back.
shit.
Yeah, which Lord of the Rings at the time was very much a marvel, because you would normally have to wait and see how the film performed, but they just did it right after each other,
They're like,
right
"This is
after
gonna be good,
another.
we already know."
Mhm. Like, if you watch I'm the freak that watches, like, commentary and shit and behind the scenes,
I'm just
because I have
quirky
the
like
old
that, you
DVDs.
know?
I'm just quirky, I'm just different like that. But, yeah, a lot of the cast members talk about, like, how, like, they feel like it was a trudge and a fellowship because they spent, like, years together.
That's sweet. And it shows too with
That's
that
why
cast because
mhm.
they're, like, super if you see them, they look like they're, like, childhood friends, you know?
Oh, yeah, like, The Hobbit, the 4 Hobbits, those actors, they all still hang out and do stuff, and they'll post stuff sometimes, which is just crazy. But, yeah, this film is a tremendous effort by everyone involved. It's beautiful, and
Mhm.
it's really exciting. But, before we get into spoilers, is there any more, like, surface stuff you wanna talk about?
Um, I did very much enjoy the different
Mhm,
Spider-Men and Spider-Women, just kind of seeing,
mhm,
like, everyone's kind of different point of view a little bit, you know? And
mhm,
one thing too, I think everyone could kind of agree, Hobbs was fucking awesome, like, he was a show stealer in that movie. And I knew a little bit about Spider-Punk, but I'm like, "Man, I kinda wanna read a Spider-Punk comic now." You know?
mhm.
That was cool.
He's like the cool side character of the movie. Like, he's not, like, a determining factor, but he's like his presence is just so much fun.
Mhm.
And you know what? I saw this is just a tangent, but, people, like, will make fan playlists and stuff, and I had to promote the real one because people were putting up fan playlists for Spider-Punk,
Mhm.
and it had, like, Hamilton on it.
Fuck
And
out of
I'm just
here
like
with that.
and I'm
With
just like, "Babe, Spider-Punk is not listening to Hamilton."
yeah, I love my Hamilton, and Lin Manuel, I like you, but you
Mhm.
don't belong there. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, you know what? The dad Peter would listen to Hamilton, not
Yeah.
fucking Spider-Punk.
But
But mhm.
anything else you want to talk about too? Any
I
other
I
specifics?
if we're still not going, like, too spoilerful, if we're still staying surface, I wanna say I love one of my favorite, art styles was, the one associated with, Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen,
Mm.
simply
Mhm.
because her environment was very, impressionistic. It's like a watercolor,
Mhm.
and, like, as she talked and spoke, the environment's coloring would change around her, almost like a mood ring.
One of the things I noticed
Mhm,
immediately when I saw this movie, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this too, and I understand this may be a sensitive subject, so what we're
mhm,
saying, we're trying to come from this as respectfully as we possibly can before I kind of dive
mhm,
deeper into this. Um, there's a scene in one of the opening shots where she's in her room, and you see a trans flag in the background, and people were like,
mhm,
"Oh, the sign said like protect trans lives or something of that vein."
mhm.
And I've been seeing a lot of people online, and even like IGN wrote a story on this saying like, "Oh, her story is a story of trans," and people are saying, "Oh, Gwen is trans." So
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to get your take on it because I talked about it with Elizabeth because she doesn't really read comics, but she read a lot of Gwen
Yeah,
Stacy.
she's a Spider-Gwen fan,
Yeah,
isn't
she's
she?
a Spider Gwen fan, and I was like, "Hey, so how do you feel about that?" She was like, "She's not trans." But, I think she was like, I could see why people were saying that, but I don't see Gwen as trans. I see if anything, I see her, like, as an ally. And
Mhm,
then she was asking me that, and she was like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "I don't think they were trying to say she's trans. I think they were making a statement, like, Sony as a whole, saying
mhm,
like, 'Hey, we love and support trans people. We're not, like, trying to ostracize them,' you know?" Like,
mhm.
that's their way of making a statement without, like, them saying like, Gwen coming out, be like, "I'm a trans Spider-Man." You get what I'm saying? Like, without making that, like
Yeah,
without forcing it into the movie. So
uh,
I kinda wanted to take
mhm.
your opinion on that. What did you think?
I totally get you. I also saw that, I thought it was a really fun interpretation. I'd also say that, her dad on his, like, cop shirt
Mhm.
also had, like, a trans little flag on it,
Uh-huh.
so there was, like, more support there, and I don't know if she is or not, but I think that's an interesting idea. It's sort of like one that is open to interpretation for sure.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's interesting because there is I guess we're getting into spoilers now, so
Yeah.
spoilers ahead. But, I think Gwen's story is very interesting in regards to the fact that it's dealing with ideas of not living up to who you think somebody is.
Mhm.
Like, there's moments in the movie where she talks to her dad, particularly after they reunite near the end, which is like, "I'm not the daughter you wanted me to be. I'm not the person you thought I am. I am this different person." And I think some people that are trans can relate to that because parents have their kids and they expect them to be one thing and turn out another. And it's
I
like
didn't catch
and
that.
Mhm,
Obviously, as someone who's not trans, yeah, that makes that
mhm,
does I could definitely see that now too. Okay.
mhm. And it's like this thing where it's, a lot of trans parent there are lots of parents that don't expect their kids to be trans or have any ideas like that. So it's interesting because when you come out to your parents as like ace or bi or trans or something, you've had your entire life to kind of think and deal with that. And you have to give your parents or guardians like a chance to breathe because they might be hit with this information out of nowhere to them. So I think it's something because people were especially relating, like, find when he finds out that Gwen is Spider-Woman, you can have that as an allegorical, "Oh, I found out
Hmm.
my daughter is trans," and he freaks out because he's like, "I knew my daughter my whole life as this one person, and now all of a sudden she has this big, deep, dark thing. She's not my daughter anymore, she's Spider-Gwen. Like, she's not my son anymore, he's my daughter." And, like, he
Hmm.
reacts to that badly, he reacts to that poorly, like some parents do, and, she freaks out and flips out and runs away. And then you can kinda keep that allegory going when they reunite, and he's like, "I quit the Force." Like, he's changing because he loves his daughter and accept her for who she is as Spider-Gwen
Hmm.
more than the ideals that he previously held.
Okay.
So it's not concrete at all. Like but if you want to take the suggestion and run with it and make that your head canon, you totally can. Like
Hmm.
that's something you can pick up and take if you want.
That makes a lot of sense now, cause
Mhm.
like, I was kind of taking it at all face value. I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
Spider-Man," but okay, now that you kind of, like I see that now, I
Yeah.
see it now. Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Because
Mhm. Because
when go
mhm.
for it.
Oh, I was about to say a lot of trans stories is just revealing to someone that you love that you're not who you thought they were, and people can take it badly sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, cause I did
Mhm.
notice, like, a few trans stuff, but I was like, "Oh, that's them, like, saying they support the trans community." And
Yeah.
that was it, and I was and but now that you're kinda, like, throwing it not I won't say throwing it in my face, but, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's very subtextual.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it's interesting if I don't think I hate to be a hater, but I don't think they'd ever
We
make
love
that
to be a
official.
hater.
I love to be a hater, but I don't think they'll ever make that official. They'll
Mhm,
never make it Facebook official because, just to the climate and the way things are now, like, people are sending death threats over men in dresses, you know? So,
mhm,
I don't know if this is the climate for them to do that. If they
mhm.
do, that'd be great, but I don't think they
Yeah.
as
To
a company will do it.
to further
So I
kind
think
of support
mhm,
that too, when I saw IGN post that because I had the option of writing that story, but as someone
mhm,
who's, like, not gay at all or anything, I was like,
mhm.
"I don't wanna do this just because I don't wanna,
Yeah.
like" for one, I'm not a woman, and then second, I'm not in the community, so
Mhm.
I was like
You're staying in your lane.
yeah, exactly, and I was like, "And if I, like, misinterpret something, it's just gonna be the support I'm trying to do is gonna get lost in translation." So, I shout out to Alex, she ended up writing it, and when I saw that when IGN tweeted it out, they the comments in there were just a bunch of, like, incels, and so I to kinda, like, support what you're saying right there, people, like, getting
Mhm,
hate just for being themselves, and I'm like, "Oh, you guys are all just pieces of shit," you know?
mhm,
But yeah, that was something I kinda wanted to touch on a little bit because I know that's been a
mhm,
big talking point in the Spider-Verse, film community.
mhm. In the fandom, it's been
Yeah,
a big thing, and I think you can it's a very much a you can take it or leave it
mhm.
type of thing.
But, it's talking of other big things. Miguel was carrying around a dump truck that entire fucking movie. Like, I remember I saw it in one of the scenes, I was like, "Damn, this boy is caked up." And that was it. And I saw it for a second, and apparently everyone else did too, because I I kinda feel like that hipster. I'm like, "I liked him
Mhm.
before everyone else liked him." And all of a sudden now, out of the woodworks, here comes all the fucking Miguel fans.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I'm sure once I started posting and tweeting, you're just like, "Noah, you never give a fuck about
I
him.
remember I
What?"
specifically told you to go read the last not his current
Mhm,
run, but the last one. You're like, "I'll go do that." Mhm. Never
mhm,
fucking did. But I am all jokes aside, though, I am liking how everyone is liking Miguel, even if it's a horny like, but it's cool. Everyone likes to see their favorite comic book hero get more limelight because, in
mhm,
theory, that gets them more popular, more comics, more content. There you go. But one thing I really did like about Miguel was a few things I liked about Miguel.
mhm.
Because he's my favorite Spider-Man. I think
Yeah.
obviously Peter's the goat. Everyone loves Peter, but if I had like, he's my Spider-Man. But the one thing I liked, a few things I liked about him was that I liked how they captured his seriousness, like how just
Mhm,
edgy he is and how like I don't fuck around and this and that, blah blah blah. And just how much of a dick he was being to Miles, I was like, yeah, this is why I like you, Like they're really capturing your personality because they even make a line in one of 'em in the movie where Peter's like, "Dude, we're supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be cracking jokes. You're the most boring Spider-Man out of all of us. You never joke. You never do that." And he's like, "Because I have shit to do. I can't afford to joke
mhm,
around like you guys can." And it reminded me of a line in Spider-Man 2099 Exodus. It was the last
mhm,
run they did where
mhm,
Green Goblin somehow comes into the future and they're duking it out because Green Goblin like took over the future. And when they're
mhm,
doing the final fight, Green Goblin's like, "Oh yeah, I've done this song and dance with Peter before, blah blah blah, and go ahead, arrest me. I'll get out of jail." And then and he's like, "We're just gonna repeat itself. We're gonna be doomed to do this dance like Peter and I did." And he's like, "Yeah, but here's the thing. Unlike Peter, I'm willing to put you down if I need to." And
Mhm.
I was like, "Damn." I was like, "I fucking love that line," you know? And so they, like, just captured that so perfectly where it's like, like the Batman doesn't kill kind of thing. Like, this guy will fucking put you 6 feet under if it betters the world.
Oh my
Like,
god, I've realized why you like him.
why?
Okay, if Peter Parker is Batman, Miguel O'Hara is Red Hood. I just figured it out. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I figured you have a type. What can I say?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're 100% right. And another thing I liked about it too, I always forget his AI's name because I'm still like a fairly new 2099 fan.
Mhm.
I think it's like Lola, Lila, something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that.
And the few issues I've read, she's just kind of like this, Cortana-esque AI. Just, doesn't it just looks like a regular robot girl or AI girl.
Mhm.
I like that in this one she's like super girly, like flamboyant with like her fucking coat. She's
Yeah,
just kind of like dicking around and like fucking
she's
with
very
him.
sassy.
Yeah, and I loved that because it just kind of like it counteracts it balances his character.
Mhm,
Because, like, he's super dark and gritty, and she's super lighthearted and fun, and then she's annoying the fuck out of him, but you could tell that he loves her. Because,
mhm.
like, in the comics too, he arguably cares about her more than he cares about anybody else. So, yeah, I really loved how they created Miguel in this movie, and just, like, how perfect they did everything. Oscar Isaac knocked it out of the park. The writers did good, and, shout out to the writers on strike. And everything about him was great. I loved it. But what about you? You wanna talk about your favorite Spider-Man?
I oh my gosh, I think I already talked a little bit about it, but Gwen Stacy is really cool.
Mhm.
I love Miles a lot. Miles and Gwen are
It's
2 of
easy to
my
say
favorite.
Miles is the best part of the
Mhm,
movie because he's, like, the lead.
mhm. Yeah, but so we can save him for a bit, but, I think Gwen's really interesting
Mhm.
as, sort of this idea of someone who's kind of in and out of the idea of Spider-Man because you could see at the end, she's like, "Fuck these guys, I'm gonna form my team and we're gonna help Miles."
Mhm. That was
I
cool
think it was
too,
in
seeing, like,
mhm,
even, like, the other Spider-Man from the last movie there. That was really
mhm.
cool.
I'm glad I got things clarified because apparently she's teenage because I was really confused about the pairing simply because in the comics, he's like 17, but she's like a college student.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with
Uh,
Elizabeth because there was a line I think Elizabeth her theory was that she's 18 because there's a line in the movie where Miles' mom, which is a baddie by the way,
yeah.
is like, "She looks like she's old enough to vote." So that was,
Mhm.
like, her theory that she's 18.
Yeah, but the thing is that, she's according to the internet, she's either 16 or 17,
Oh, okay.
and Miles is 15 in this movie, which is good because in the comics, people ship them, but it's just fucking weird. Because 'cause I'm just like, "Girl, he's in high school. What the fuck are you doing, you predator?
I
Like,
I
get."
I always imagined that was like
Mhm,
an alternate reality, like a different
mhm,
universe Gwen that's getting together with him, not like
mhm.
the one that's like fighting the fucking hand and
Oh,
taking on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I know it's different, but I'm happy I found out that they're more similar in age, so it's not as weird.
Uh-huh. One
But,
one thing
mhm,
too, Elizabeth pointed out that I again as someone I wouldn't know as a comic book reader of hers, she was a little hurt that when she was like, "Oh, you have no friends." And there's a point too where they show her drumming with the Mary Janes, and then she was like, in the comics, like those are her friends, like those are her best
yeah.
friends right there, and they just completely wrote them off. So that was something that kind of like annoyed her a bit, but I
You
found
know
that
what?
really
That's just
interesting.
Gwen being I feel like that's just Gwen being, like, a dickhead.
Yeah.
Like, spider angst,
Mm.
because they are her friends, and they do keep trying like, in the comics, I'm sure she knows, but they do keep trying to, like, be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's just like, I'm busy, sorry." Like, so they do try to be her friend, which is nice.
Mm.
But, yeah, I will say anyone right now, there was a band called Married with Sea Monsters that, wrote a song called "Face It Tiger," which is based on, like, the song that appears in Gwen's first appearance. I would say YouTube it, guys, if you're this far along. "Face It Tiger" by Married with Sea Monsters. Marvel reposted it and everything. It's a fun song. It's like, girl, it's exactly sounds like what you think it would.
Hmm.
It's like rock. It's very, like it gives me White Stripe vibes, I think. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it. But, it's like girl rock. It's like, not punk, not pop Paramore, I guess, is how I would describe it. Like, if Paramore had all the pop sucked out of them,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, Paramore is pop rock, like pop indie, whatever, so, that's it's good, so Face It Tiger on YouTube, everyone should go YouTube that, but, yeah, I really enjoyed Gwen Stacy's, her intro was really great, her
Uh-huh.
story was fantastic, I'm a big fan, and apparently she might get her own movie.
He deserves it. Yeah.
Yeah, she does. I hope it's in the same style that they have her now with her, like, watercolor world.
Uh-huh.
I'm interested to see what kinda story they give her because she has a couple storylines.
I'm really
One of the
hoping
one
they do
Mhm.
the Murdoch one where Matt Murdock's evil. Like
Mhm.
that'd be so cool.
Oh, yeah, he's the leader of the hand,
Yeah,
and
that
he's
would be so cool if they did that.
it's such a fun departure for the character just because, like, comic Matt is so, like, reserved and, like, he'll be fun and lighthearted, but usually he's very much he still keeps to himself even if when he's happy. But Gwen Stacy, Matt Murdock is just fucking deranged.
Yeah, I and honestly too,
He's so
I know you're not too much of a fan of when they do that, but I love it when they turn the Supermans of the world evil. I love that shit, you know?
I'm okay with it with this one.
Oh, you like this one gets the hall pass?
Because it's like Daredevil has never been, like, the symbol of justice. Like, he's not like he's not it's not Captain America, okay? Not like Captain America. It's Daredevil, it's fine, he's killed, he's okay. It's fine, it's alright.
I
But,
I
mhm.
also enjoyed Spider-Man, India. He was so fucking cool. And
Oh, yeah,
I
he was
love too, it was like I saw a tweet where it was like, this is the happiest fucking Spider-Man there is to ever exist." Like, this guy has never struggled a day in his fucking life.
Well, you know what? He's been I think they said in the film, he's been Spider-Man for, like, less than a year, so that's probably why he's happy. Like, you know what? That comes up in the film. His traumatic, like, event was supposed to happen, and they stopped it.
Mhm.
So I guess he'll just keep on being happy instead of being like, "Oh, I couldn't save my girlfriend's dad." Like, nope, he's gonna just keep on being happy.
Good for him. If there's one happy Spider-Man in a
Um,
multiverse, I guess it deserves to be him.
mhm. And you know what? That his the sequence in his, Mumbattan
Uh-huh.
was really cool. It was a lot of fun. I
I
like the art style, the sequence where they fight Spot and then they save the tower falling, like, that was really
I
fun.
saw a table reading on TikTok that they
Mm,
invited him into the writing room, the voice actor, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to be in this. We want, like, authentic,
mm,
like, Indian, references, like, every we want this to be as authentic as it possibly can." He was like, "Say
mhm,
less." And, like, the chai tea remark was, like, some like, I guess I may be paraphrasing this wrong, but it was, like,
mhm,
something, like, in India that's, like, very near and dear to them, and, like, just a lot of lines and all that was, like, straight up, like, from India, those are meant for, like, the people of India. So I thought that was
mhm,
really cool, like, how they invited him into the writing room and just said, "Have fun with it. Dude, make this as authentic as you can, because obviously we don't know."
mhm.
But
I love that they really added that special touch.
uh-huh. Now, we've been kinda jumping all over the place.
Mhm,
Now, I wanna talk about Spot a little bit because I really did like his character,
mhm,
and I liked how he started off as a goofball, but then as the
mhm,
movie progressed, you're like, "Oh, shit," like, kind of like the real deal, you know?
mhm.
What did you think about him?
I think it's funny because you think of Spider-Man villains and there's, like, a long list, and I'll be very frank because people say, "Oh, Miles is just a rip-off." Miles has his own villains, they're just not as well known as
Uh-huh,
Peter's. So when you bring in Spot, I'm excited because he's, like, a lower rank villain you can kinda do anything with.
uh-huh,
And I think, like you said, they did a really good job of, like, making him, like, this goofball at the beginning that you don't take seriously, but as the film progresses, he just gets more and more horrifying,
mhm.
and the accompanying art that goes with him and how he, like, interacts with the world, like, how the art style shifts and interacts with
It's, like,
it, like,
black
clashes.
and yeah,
Uh-huh. It gives me, like, anime moments when, like, everything goes black and they're, like, about to punch or something, you know what I mean?
uh-huh,
It gives me that, but with, like, more ink. It's,
mhm.
like, really cool, and I love the effects they use for him.
I couldn't have
Uh
thought of a better villain too, like, in all
mhm.
honesty.
And I think it's interesting how they incorporated him with the multiverse
Mhm.
because, when I first saw it, I said my second viewing was with a friend of the show, Jake, and he was just like, "Oh, wouldn't it be better if they had done the Inheritors?"
That's
And I
what
was
he
just like,
yeah, he popped we were playing
uh
Xbox and he was like, "I wish the Inheritors popped." I was like, "Jake, it's a fucking Spider-Man movie." And he was like, "Obviously, you haven't read comics like me." I'm like, "Obvious fucking Lee," like
and I'm just like, "Babe, there's too much going on." The Inheritors have a whole fucking thing with spider totems and, like, it's, like, too much. It's team too much. No.
The whole thing of, like, having the canon events was that Miguel explains that this is supposed to happen because if it doesn't, it could cause a rift in their universe that could bleed out into other people's and potentially destroy everything. Like, we could
Mhm,
all die. And then Miguel makes it a point to say is like, "We might be able to save that universe if, like, if you fuck with it, but there's no guarantee we can do that because there's been universes we weren't able to save." Like, we were
mm,
able just to essentially, like, put a lock on it from bleeding out over to ours. That's why
mhm,
this needs to happen because we don't know for sure if we can save them, so we can't we're not gonna roll the dice.
mhm,
And that whole thing too with Miguel, with Miles saying like Miguel telling Miles like, tough tits, but your dad has to die. And it's
mhm.
just the way.
That's exactly the line. That's exactly he's just like, "Miles Morales, tough tits, your dad's gotta die."
And
And then he's like, "No."
I get the whole thing too, is like, especially so like it's you and I, we don't have our dads. And I'm pretty sure the same thing. Like you would fight to the ends of the earth to save your dad, if there was a chance you could. But at the same time, I'm just like, one dude one dude has to die and in exchange, like everyone else gets to live. Like, you know, you you're kind of the bad guy in this scenario, Miles, you know?
Mhm,
I can't help but feel like you're the bad guy because you gotta think of the bigger picture, and the world isn't black and white. There's that little gray area you gotta balance out in. And I feel like this is exactly where that is. That little
mhm.
gray area because it's gonna have to happen. And I don't really necessarily see Miguel as a bad guy. Yes, he was a dick, but he kinda has to be a dick, you know? You can't be a nice boss and get shit done.
He was, the antagonist, but he
Mhm.
wasn't, like, the villain.
Yeah. So, what's your thoughts on this? Miguel bad
I
guy? No, not Miguel bad guy, Miles good guy? What's your take?
I think there's an interesting idea playing with Miles that is about this might be more like this might be, like, less believable than the trans thing just because I'm really stringing ideas together. But I really I really view Miles as an analog for fighting against, generational trauma in
Mhm.
the sense that, there's all these spider people, they've all gone through trauma, this older generation that knows better and tells you, "This is how you do it, you have to go through this bad shit, sorry, it's gonna happen, you have to deal with it. We're not gonna talk to each other about it, we're just gonna sit in our sadness and keep on soldiering on." Which is something you see in a lot of, POC parents that, like, "We don't talk about mental health, we don't face our trauma, bad shit happens, we drink and we get over it."
Yeah.
And you see that kind of affecting to Gwen because they're just like, "Gwen, sorry, you have to leave. Don't stay and face it. We're gonna take you in. Shut up. Learn to deal with your pain. Your dad's gonna die. You can do nothing about it. Like you're the drama that happened to you, you can't do anything about that trauma." But Miles is this like younger generation, is this new kid, is like, "No, I am not gonna let this affect me like it affected everyone else. I'm breaking free of these ideas, of these generational traumas. I'm breaking free of that and forging my own path because I've seen how it worked for you and I don't want that life for me." And I think it's interesting that he's choosing to kind of break that because no matter who you are, if you're a spider person, you are destined for trauma.
Yeah.
It's built into the character, and I think Miles as a rejection of that ideal is interesting because it is something fresh, it is something new, and I think just within the story itself, I think that's something he can do it because Miles himself is an anomaly. He doesn't have the traditional Spider-Man story. He already he can do it all. I feel like because I mean, even Gwen says during the movie, she says, do you know for certain that bad shit is gonna happen? And Miguel doesn't answer her.
Mhm.
See, one bad thing happened to Miguel, and he shut it down forever. And you can say, "Hey, look at Spider-Man Mumbai." Well, that disaster seemed less as a result of them saving the captain and more so as a result of Spot fucking around.
Mhm.
So that was because of Spot, not because a canon event. And I think it'd be interesting idea to explore in the next film if it turns out canon events could be avoided, but because McGill was so hurt and torn, he's like, "No, this needs to happen because I'm hoping you become a better Spider-Man. You need to go through this trauma. I'm not letting you get out of it.
Mhm.
This is how it's always gonna be, and this is how it needs to be." And it'd be interesting if
Kind of
they
like a
kind of
metaphor for
yeah,
uh-huh.
for like, "Oh, I'm suffering and it made me better, and I'm gonna make all of you better by suffering with me. I'm not gonna be alone in my pain." So if they do something like, well, look, these can be broken, it's just Miguel like so stuck in his sadness that he wants to share it with everyone else because that's the only way that he can relate to anyone. I think that'd be an interesting idea to execute. I don't
Mhm.
know if they're gonna do it, but I think that would be interesting. And
Yeah.
Miles is an anomaly. He is so different. His story can change. And hey, if we're really arguing about canon events, I would say the death of his uncle is his canon
Yeah,
event.
no, that's something Elizabeth was kind of talking about too. It was like
Mhm.
he why were they having this giant conversation about that? Because that was his fucking Uncle Ben, you know?
Yeah, that was his Uncle Ben.
And it that didn't make any sense right there. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's just like he can have both parents, but he has experienced trauma already.
Mhm.
So there was a few flaws in Miguel's logic as well. And then when he said too, like Miles isn't supposed to be a thing, and then this is me kind of being a nerd. I'm like, but technically, um, but they showed the PS5 Spider-Man, Peter Parker in the video game. I'm like,
Mhm.
then where's Miles then? You said like you shouldn't exist, but Miles is in that universe. He's out swinging
Mhm.
around. His dad has died, and then where's like the comic book Miles too? Like
Mhm.
you
I
can't.
will say that
Oh, go for it.
mhm. Oh, I'll let no, go ahead.
I was like, you can't say that like you shouldn't exist if you're doing multiverse stuff and there are clearly you're nitpicking from other universes where Miles is fucking running around doing his thing, you know?
I love that, and I think that's interesting because the filmmakers and writers behind the film have openly stated that, like, they've said it in interviews that, this film is very much an allegory of people who say that Miles isn't Spider-Man.
Mhm.
You put Miguel in the feet of those, like, incels, it's like,
You know,
"Well, Miles is Spider-Man," and
I
then this
I hate that my favorite Spider-Man is being the voice of the racist.
we can dissect that later in why. Yeah, it's very funny because he's like the old fans that are like, "Hey, you can't Miles isn't Spider-Man, you can't be a black Spider-Man." And
Mhm,
then Miles is like kind of the perspective of the creators and the fans saying like, "I don't care. I'm still gonna exist. You can
mhm,
call me Spider-Man every day." And that always annoys me because the point of Spider-Man is that anybody can be Spider-Man as
mhm,
long as they keep those ideologies in check.
mhm.
What you really mean to say is that he's not Peter Parker, which he isn't, he's Miles.
Yeah, and that's a fair argument to be made.
Like, if they said he's not Peter Parker, then, like, yeah, he's not, he's Miles, but anybody can be a Spider Person.
Mm. I can
Like,
be a
that's
spider person.
yeah. You know what? You should be you know what? What if you're this universe's Spider-Man, Lewis?
Oh man, it's over. I'm dropping motherfuckers. I ain't pulling my punches like Peter.
You're gonna be like, what's the assassin Spider-Man? Kane, whatever?
I don't know. I'm gonna be like Peter when Kingpin sends an assassin after Aunt May. I'm just gonna go
Oh,
ham. That hey, I haven't
I've seen it.
I haven't fully read that run, but I've read that specific issue. If you guys haven't read it, it's I'm just gonna spoil it for you right now. Essentially, Kingpin sends an assassin to go kill Aunt May, and I believe he still
Mhm,
has the symbiote on him, so he's like super edgy. And he goes into like the prison and then Kingpin's like, "What are you gonna do? You gonna knock me?" And he's like, "No, I'm gonna kill you." And I'm like, "Damn!"
mhm.
Whenever you see Peter unhinged, that's how you know you fucked up.
Is this the one where he grabs his fat folds like it's a shirt?
I think so, yeah.
I'm just trying to remember the panels. But, I was thinking of Kane Parker, who's like an assassin Spider-Man. That's who I was thinking of.
Hmm,
But, yeah, I forgot how we got there, but yeah, it's kind of just like, yeah, no matter what you say, I am gonna just do my own thing.
mhm.
I'm Spider-Man, sorry. And I really enjoy that, and I think that's a cool thing to play with.
Yeah, that is cool. And like I said too, I get what they're doing, but it's just at the same time, it's just like, man, you're kind of the bad guy.
Mhm,
Um, just because like if that was me and I was real, like I was put in that situation, I'd be like, fuck. Like, I get it. I understand. I'm not
mhm.
gonna like what I'm gonna have to do, but I understand what I have to do.
That's what makes him a good antagonist because you understand what he's saying.
Uh-huh. Like the whole like Thanos effect or something like that. Like you
Mhm.
get where he's coming from.
Except, like, Miguel makes sense, and Thanos is a fucking dumbass nerd
I
virgin.
I also
Loser.
I also did like too how they brought in Gambino and they brought in like just like the live action aspects of all that. Like so
Mhm.
when seeing Gambino too, the implications is that like he's in the MCU because
It could be a
he was
different version of him.
it could be, but that's my headcanon. I like to think that's MCU version of him just because I would like to see a live action Miles, and they've already announced too that a live action Miles is on the way. And so
Mhm.
I'm curious to see how that's gonna go, but I know you're kind of, like, against that a little bit, right?
I'm just, like, tired and distrustful of the MCU,
Same.
which is, like, I feel warranted.
Mhm.
So I'm like, "I don't want you to touch anything I like." So it's kinda like that, which is why whenever anybody talks about the mutants in MCU, I just, like, like, physically get upset because 'cause I'm just like, "Ugh, they're gonna fuck up the X-Men." But, yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I feel kinda bad for Gambino just because there was such, like, a push for him to be Spider-Man,
And
and
he even
he
voiced him for, like, an episode.
yeah, he voiced him for, Ultimate Spider-Man, which was a cartoon that happened. I didn't really watch it, but, they had their own Spider-Verse event, so good for them. But, like, it's like always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Like, he's always around Spider-Man, but never Spider-Man, really. Like, I feel but, yeah, it was cool seeing all those, cameos.
Hmm.
Did you have a favorite cameo?
Um, I did like the horse when my one of my favorite lines, he was like, "Why is the horse wearing a mask?" And he was like, "To protect his identity." That was
Yeah,
probably
like, what a dumbass, you gotta protect his
that
identity.
one and maybe, like, the T-Rex one, but it all kinda happened so fast.
Mhm,
Just 'cause, if I had to say my favorite just 'cause I'm a gamer, I did like seeing the game, the video game Spider-Man. That one was
mhm.
probably, like, the coolest one for me. What about you?
I The thing is, I don't, like, get too excited for cameos, but I can say in the theater, when you saw, like, Tobey Maguire and Andrew
Mm,
Garfield, like, when you saw those, like, actual footage and people, like, react I don't know if you had it in your theater, but people in both my
mhm,
showings, they, like, audibly were like, "Oh, no," and people were saying this, that, and it, like, made me excited.
yeah,
See how excited other people were, about it. There's a version this is, like, a random thing, but there's Spider-Man I'm gonna have to look up the story right now, but there's an alternate universe where, Peter and MJ get married,
uh-huh.
and they have a kid, and, she's called, like, Spinneret or something, and they have their own little family,
Yeah, I read
and
that comic, they had them at my elementary school. The
oh, it's called,
Spider Girl or something like that, right?
oh, no, this is a different
Oh,
version.
okay, okay, okay.
It's Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, and they have a daughter named Annie. And, MJ has a suit in it that, like, kind of, works with Peter's, so that, like, it siphons off some of his energy and lets her be a spider person, so, like, the 3 of them go out,
Mhm.
and they fight crime, and it's a very cute time, and I enjoy that. So I saw MJ with her kid, and I was like, "Oh."
Oh, that's cute.
So I thought that was just really cute. So that was one of my favorite cameos.
Alright, anything else you wanna talk about? Because I think we're a little bit over time right now.
Mhm. I wanna say that, Miguel O'Hara's got that dump truck, and you know what? Good for
Alright, Noah,
him.
if people wanna find you, where can they find you at?
They can find me in the corner of the Kmart, where I will be selling Yu-Gi-Oh! DVDs. But aside from that, you can find me, That joke didn't land. I don't care. You can find me at Noah is Garcia on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Go follow me on TikTok. You can find me also at Noah Garcia on YouTube. Go ahead and go to YouTube and watch my stuff. Don't watch any. Just watch my comic video. Don't watch anything else. Don't watch any of the old vlogs. Don't watch any of those. But Lewis, where can people find you?
So people can find my work on
Mhm,
IGN and GameSpot. All you have to do is Google Luis Joshua Gutierrez, and everything
mhm.
should pop up. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Luis Gutierrez. I don't really tweet too much. I do a lot of retweets. So
Mhm.
you get a lot of good retweets from me, and
Oh, yeah.
the occasional tweet with me like talking about how shitty our world is and how like landlords deserve to be put in a guillotine. Uh,
Yeah.
there was a thing I read. Hold on, really quick. There was it was an excerpt from an article that this couple they were expecting a baby,
Mhm.
and their lease on their apartment said only two people, them, both the partners, and the landlord said, "You better not bring that baby in, because if you bring that baby in, you're in breach of your contract, and you're gonna have to pay fees, or we're gonna have to evict you." Baby comes in, landlord fucking evicts them. Do you believe that?
I do believe that.
Yeah, fuck.
Landlord's a piece of
Yeah,
shit.
fuck landlords. Okay, anyways, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you can follow me there. And if you want, go follow me on TikTok where I upload Twitch clips at I'm Joshua Joestar, and follow me on Twitch at I'm Joshua Joestar as well. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for making it this far. If you've made it this far, we really appreciate you. Shout out to the Kevins of the world and Kevin Primes. And if you didn't make this far, fuck you, Rudy. I know he's not
You know what?
gonna.
I love you, Rudy. You're great.
He ain't gonna listen to this.
He's never gonna. He'd listen to one just to search for us talking shit. And he found.
Here's the only way I think not Kevin, Rudy's gonna hear that specific clip is if Kevin records it and sends it to him.
He might.
Yeah.
You never know. Don't. Are you gonna be a traitor, Kevin? Now's the time to figure that out.
But thank you guys for listening. I apologize again for the 2-week hiatus. We're gonna try to avoid that again. But we will see you guys later, and we will see you next week. So take care.
Goodbye.